Hello, everybody. Welcome to week 16 of a good football show, Fantasy Kickoff, served by Applebee's. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined as I am every week by Kyle Dvorchak, John Daigle, and Denny Carter. We hope your holiday weekend is going better than your fantasy team because we're just assuming every player is out for some reason or another, and all your hard work has just gone down the drain for this most important of weeks. But we're going to do all we can to help you dig into your lineup questions. First, we're going to take a spin through this week's biggest news, which is really just all the news. I mean, it was literally, you should look at like the bottom 12 quarterbacks in the rankings, and you can just see how dire this week really is. But Kyle, one situation, Austin Eckler, he was will he or won't he all week with if he was going to end up in the COVID-19 list. Then he did. He couldn't get activated in time for today. Now, I mean, people are touting Justin Jackson as the plug and play, which he has been the past 2 weeks. He's finally been getting more consistent work. That is a situation that has typically ended in disappointment for fantasy managers. Can we trust Justin Jackson as a flex? Are we worried about Joshua Kelly or maybe even Mr. Larry Roundtree?
Yeah, I would say we probably, at this point, you have to play Justin Jackson, right? If you're looking that, I don't want to say deep, but if you're looking to pick up a waiver wire or, if you were thinking, if you lost Austin Eckler, if you're into that pool, the only other player you would have been looking at would have been like a Ronald Jones or someone slipped up and cut Alexander Madison a week or two ago. He does slot in as maybe a top 24 running back, but I think there are admittedly concerns. He probably gets the bulk of the carries. I would say maybe it's a 60-40 split between him and Kelly, but Kelly has profiled as that short, thick, that goal line back, right? So if you got 80, 90 scoreless yards and 2 catches for 15 yards, is that possible? Yeah, it's entirely possible. And although Houston gives up an incredible run rate to their opponents, they also have a bad secondary. So it's also possible that the scores come through the air. So I think he's pretty much a locked-in 24 running back, but there are leaks in it. He's a locked-in top 24 running back because as we talked about, every single position is just a set of landmines. I think you're probably good for 13, 14 carries at a minimum and a few targets, but would it surprise me if he disappoints? No, of course not.
Yeah, I think in a normal week, like a deeper player pool, he would be kind of considered a risky flex. This week, with the player pool we've got, I think you're right. He's probably in there in that low-end RB2 situation. And Denny, next up is the Patriots backfield where we have Damian Harris is active. Ramondre Stevenson's on the COVID-19 list. Brandon Bolden is active. Is Damian Harris a safe low-end RB2? The last time these teams played, the Patriots and Bills, the Patriots just did their power rushing attack like to the hilt. As we remember, They attempted 3 passes. But can we trust Damian Harris's hamstring to get him in there, say, like a top 20 option?
I think even in a regular kind of week, which this is obviously not, Damian Harris would be a really solid plugged-in RB2, like high-end RB2 with a lot of touchdown upside in this matchup. Unless game script goes sideways and Brandon Bolden kind of takes away some snaps and some pass-catching work in this one, I see several paths to success for Damian Harris because Ramondre Stevenson is out, and they were largely splitting those carries. Of course, Damian Harris had the big run against Buffalo the last time they played before he hurt his hamstring and then missed the following week. But I would feel very comfortable plugging him in today with Stevenson sidelined.
Real quick on the other side of the ball, this game, the Bills have healthy scratched Matt Breida after they kind of made him like the early centerpiece of their week 13. It seems like they've realized power rushing is the way you have to beat the Patriots and really the most reliable way to gain yards. So best of luck to the Bills with yet another adjustment in their backfield. Daigle will end here with we'll end the opening segment, not the show. But maybe some people are just wishing we would end the show so we're not talking about how all their players are out of the lineup. But Tyreek Hill is active for the Chiefs. Travis Kelce cannot get cleared. I mean, I guess I don't even know what the question is here. Like, are there any pivots for Travis Kelce? Like, who are the emergency tight ends this week? I know this is usually more of a Denny question, but what in the world do you do if you lost Travis Kelce for the fantasy semifinals?
Pray. Not many pivots now that Blake Bell is also activated from the COVID list. So the reason to have played Bell or Noah Gray is because they were the only one available. Now they are no longer the only one available. I know we have some beat reporter hype for Josh Gordon, but we also know that's talking head nonsense. We're not going to play Josh Gordon. Some reporters don't understand that swings millions and millions of dollars whenever you say things like that. So we don't play Josh Gordon. We don't play Byron Pringle. We don't play Mecole Hardman because they don't matter. It is literally Hill, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and to a lesser extent, Darrell Williams. The running backs are the equivalent of their wide receiver 2 today. That's why DFS also, I kind of like CEH a lot as a Tyreek Hill pivot, because everyone's kind of overlooking the fact that CEH was going to be available and like used heavily anyhow, especially after his highest snap rate, highest backfield touch rate since week 1 this past week. So like CEH a lot today, but genuinely there is no pivot. I've been asked a lot of questions of where do you go if you lost Kelsey? Apparently Cole Kmet is on a lot of waiver wires. You're not going to get a touchdown. Cole Kmet does not score touchdowns because the red zone is genuinely the one area whenever you look up and see Jimmy Graham run 7 routes, all those routes are inside the 20. They take Kmet off the field. He's not going to score a touchdown at all. But the PPR, these targets he's seen the last month, even from a guy like Nick Folk, that still makes him a very high floor option. And very high floors are hard to come by in week 16 in 2021. So you take them and get out of there.
Nick, I'm sorry. I just have to laugh that you said Nick Folk instead of Nick Foles.
It's all the same.
It is. That was my joke going to be like there might as well just be Nick Folk this week. But Cole Kmet feels like someone Nick Foles will target like 20 times. That just feels like one of those situations. You hit the nail on the head. The Chiefs situation where the pivot is not in house on the Chiefs. No. We don't know what your pivot is. It's whatever happens to be on your waiver wire, but it's not in house for the Chiefs. Kyle, let's get the question started with this a brutally difficult one from Michael Bryan on YouTube. He wants to know Kenny Golladay or Marvin Jones. It appears Kadarius Toney is back today. Yeah. What should Michael do with everything on the line?
I'd probably go Marvin Jones here. Imagine. This is a tough spot to be in. I thank you for tuning in while in such a depraved situation. I would go Marvin Jones. It looks like Marvin Jones has a decent chance to put up points in a spot that if there were ever a chance for Trevor Lawrence to get things on track, it'd probably be without Urban Meyer against the Jets defense, against the Jets team, in fact, missing their defensive-minded head coach and a handful of players as well.
The Jets don't have a real team today on defense or offense. They just don't have a real team.
Missing Michael Carter, confusingly, the cornerback Michael Carter. That is the most annoying thing that the Jets found, that there are 2 Michael Carters and roster both of them. But missing defensive players, missing their defensive-minded head coach, and already a very bad defense in the first place. Yeah. So I would go Marvin Jones here. I don't know how I can somehow have more faith in Trevor Lawrence than anyone in the NFL, but if there were to be, it would be like Josh Johnson and Jake Fromm. There'd be like 4 quarterbacks, Ian Book. Somehow, all of the backups that I would say are going to play worse than Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are in fact playing.
What were you going to say, Daigle?
Quinnen Williams also put on the COVID list this morning. He's literally their best defender. That's so huge. James Robinson, you were playing him anyhow, but like, even in a spot where James Robinson could fail just because the Jaguars offense is so bad, like the floor is just so tremendously safe for James Robinson today now.
Yeah, and the Jets' top 3 receivers out, by the way. So the Jags, they don't dominate time of possession today. And they just need to shut down the franchise, basically, because they need to win this game. They need to win for me in my confidence points pool, where I actually picked them. So Jacksonville, just a very, very important assignment today. Denny, we'll go to you. Pick one to start from Matthew Borelli on YouTube. OBJ, Devontae Parker, slot man, the fill-in slot man in Buffalo, Isaiah McKenzie, or Tyler Johnson, the fill-in slot man in Tampa Bay. Yeah,
when you said Matthew Borelli, I was like, oh, is that like a slot receiver? I don't know.
For the Jets. Yeah, he's roomed with Braxton Berrios over the summer.
Yeah, he's gonna see 13 targets today. So pick one to start.
Pick one.
Well, yeah, I mean it's Beckham. There you go.
Beckham over Devontae Parker against the New Orleans Football Saints, Monday Night Football. Tua Tagovailoa.
Oh yeah, I know this. I love this spot for the Rams passing attack. Obviously Kupp, but also Van Jefferson and OBJ. I think are in fantastic spots here. Teams have low key wrecked the Vikings of late, and they played really bad teams. Really bad passing offenses. So against a good offensive line, against Stafford and his pass catchers, I like these guys a lot. I think it's pretty easy. OBJ over Parker, and McKenzie's a cool, fun play for DFS, but I wouldn't get carried away there.
Yeah, I think he's a DFS play. Same with Tyler Johnson. Even with all the chaos this week and season long, I feel like you should hopefully be able to do better than Isaiah McKenzie and Tyler Johnson. You might not be able to. Things are so messed up. But
I don't know, but McKenzie's in a pretty good spot today.
He is in pretty good. Just come on, give us the McKenzie.
We just had someone ask about like Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay. We're allowed to talk at length.
I would absolutely play McKenzie over Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay.
That's why I brought it up.
The floor is so significantly higher, and the floor was higher with Gabriel Davis in the lineup. Now we take Gabriel Davis out of the lineup. McKenzie's the number 2 receiver by default, also has a high floor for carries. Remember last year, week 17, without Cole Beasley as their starting slot receiver, McKenzie 90% of the snaps, led the team in targets. Like the ways they can use McKenzie in this game, even to use him creatively as a running back, because that's how they're going to attack the Patriots, is like super interesting. So no, I love McKenzie today.
And Gabe Davis, by the way, let me down, folks.
Remember, every crazy idea starts as a bad idea. It's crazy for a reason. McKenzie is a good play. You just have to be ahead of it.
Daigle, well, here, the cousin of Pat, Adam Fryermuth. So let's get into the McKenzie situation. Emmanuel Sanders back for the Bills, or Amon-Ra St. Brown, where the shine has really been taken off with Tim Boyle filling in for Jared Goff. What should Adam do?
I would still take Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's not going to be pretty. Tim Boyle is not good at professional football, but he will nonetheless, I would hope, lock in to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Just the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown has a 33% target share the past 3 games. I understand that's been from Jared Goff, but that kind of attention you would think still carries over. So I'm going to take the floor with AAR SB, who I trust significantly more than Emmanuel Sanders in his first game back. Sanders, in my opinion, is the DFS play, not McKenzie. McKenzie's just safe.
Makes sense to me. Denny, Jesus Alejandro on YouTube. He needs to know Tom Brady or Dak Prescott. This is a weird situation. You got Dak, really hardcore Mahomesing, just no ceiling whatsoever. Floor has been disappointing. Or Tom Brady, who's in transition with his weapons, basically. Kind of like almost an entirely new supporting cast this week. Who should Jesus start?
This is really close for me because we talked about it on the Thursday show. Like the Washington defense is a pretty extreme pass funnel. And last time the Cowboys played Washington, they threw 39 times for like 211 yards. So everything was set up except for the actual results. Oh man, I'm going to lean Dak here, but feel free anybody to push back and say Brady.
I think I'm doing Brady just still by a super narrow margin. They're so philosophically pass first. They lost the run game fallback and Leonard Fournette.
Yeah,
he's got the kind of a mind meld with Antonio Brown, even though they've barely played together that much. But I agree, it's like super close, and you're kind of splitting hairs here.
I would go Brady. I think it's significantly safer. Like maybe the offense is slower today, but that's not the reason. Like you're avoiding Brady, whereas Dak hasn't had a good game in 6 weeks. Like
that's true.
We don't even know or think they're a good offense right now, especially if Tyron Smith doesn't play. So I hate trusting the Cowboys just on the basis that like the first half of the season they were good. Great, it's been a long time since then.
So it's 3-1 Brady and Denny's fired, basically.
Pat, I like your point about like they are philosophically committed to throwing. It's not a matter of their personnel. Like they have their personnel is Brady, right? They have the best quarterback in the NFL and ever, really. And they still have at least one good receiver and one of the better tight ends right now. And they lost their running back who was playing well. So you're like I still feel like you're guaranteed 35 plus throws from the best quarterback.
I know you were referring, I can talk today, to Rob Gronkowski, but Daigle, is Cameron Brate in every DFS lineup? Is it yes or yes?
What?
I don't know. I'm just thinking of dumb. I'm thinking of dumb DFS options.
You scared me thinking I misspoke and Gronk is like on the COVID list.
Considering DraftKings like just missed the boat on Antonio Brown's priced him down for the COVID list or being injured and out, and he's not injured nor is he out. Like Brate pretty much cost the same as Antonio Brown. So no, you don't need to get too cute. Like
he's gonna catch like four passes for 41.
The prices are terrible today. The prices are awful today. Alexander Madison's 5,500. Antonio Brown is 4,900. Like I don't know what they were doing. They were worried about NFTs. They just weren't looking. COVID chaos. Probably doing some last minute Christmas shopping. Couldn't update the price. Denny T-Ray has to sit 1.5 PPR. J-Jax, Rojo, Miles Sanders, or Sony Michel.
Sit one.
One.
Oh yeah. You're sitting Michelle. No, this is like. The kids are calling this the nuts running back slate right here with Jackson, Jones, and Sanders. Sanders is an unbelievable spot against the Giants. We've talked a little bit about Ronald Jones. And Kyle's right about Justin Jackson. Like there are a lot of universes where he comes out of this thing with like 11 PPR points.
Which is why I think you bench him for Sonny Michel, Denny.
Really? You're
Yeah.
benching him for, I mean, against Houston. I mean, Houston is legit like a terrible. I mean, you saw what Rashad Penny did to them a couple weeks ago. Rashad Penny.
I know, just things have a way of going sideways for the non-Austin Eckler Chargers running back. I just feel like it's one of those like personnel groups where things never go to plan, which is admittedly not good reasoning.
Are Larry Roundtree and Gabe Neighbors active today? Because those players seem very live to score touchdowns in a completely molding way.
Roundtree is, it's just, I think Jackson has a really good game. You know, Houston's still leading the league in 10+ yard carries permitted, but also like you are not allowed to get upset when Josh Kelly comes in the goal line because we have evidence, we have proof that's going to happen. Last Thursday, Justin Jackson only out-touched Kelly 14-7. Like, it's not even a heavy timeshare Jackson's going to be in, and Kelly had 2 carries from inside the 5. We know what's going to happen, so you're not allowed to be upset.
Send your thoughts to Rivers McCown, who for some reason is attending the Texans game in person today. I really do have to question Rivers McCown's judgment.
No. He's attending the Chargers blood bathing today. It'll be a fun, like, they should certainly get to put up points. Justin Jackson is like, he's also like just a really good breakaway runner. Like, I don't think he's the best running back, but he does hit home runs at a pretty high clip. You should see a lot of fast runs from Justin Jackson today. That'll be fun for Rivers.
Not to take from the questions also, but we're in agreement that Antonio Gibson's not going to play, right? So like all the questions about this guy or Antonio Gibson, you can just start the other guy.
I was not. I took the initial report was that they were optimistic that he would play. It doesn't guarantee that he plays, and it doesn't guarantee that he plays more than a few snaps. Have you seen something different though? Because
I think Ben Standig, who actually is very kind to Roto World and NBC Sports Edge with reporting, has been pretty clear that they don't think he's going to play this week.
Interesting. I don't know. They're in such a desperate situation. I could see them waiting to the last. The problem is, it's basically one of those. If you have like another RB2 type or a solid flex type you can play over Antonio Gibson, you probably just need to get him in your lineup with the game on Sunday night. I think it's probably like a little over 50-50 Gibson plays, but it's one of those situations we just don't know, which is why I think if you have any sort of alternative or whatever, you get them in there over Gibson. I have Gibson now ranked as like a mid-range flex. It could have gone much lower there. We just don't know.
To your point, Daigle, they did also elevate Wendell Smallwood. You know, they're without J.D. McKissic, but you would also do that if you thought you had a chance of being without Gibson.
Yeah.
By the way, Rivers McCown will undergo a psych evaluation before he's allowed to do another NBC Sports Edge obviously. So this is one we could have talked about off the top of the show, Kyle, from Mr. Dylan Lasagna here on YouTube. But how will Josh Johnson at quarterback impact Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, or Rashad Bateman for a Ravens offense that's just been really weird the entire second half of the season, but have been operating fairly smoothly with Tyler Huntley. Now, what do we get with Josh Johnson, who played fairly well for the Jets earlier this season?
He did. I believe he also played very well for LA Wildcats at the XFL a year ago. This is really difficult because when you look at the way Huntley was playing, as you said, he played really well. Like, he was doing really good Lamar Jackson impression, wasn't making mistakes, was getting the ball to his playmakers. Do you believe that was part of the system that he was playing within, which has also helped Lamar Jackson, who is undoubtedly better than these two players, but it has helped him reach his potential? Or do you believe it was actually a product of Tyler Huntley being a really good backup in the NFL? I tend to think that it is a little bit of both. And Josh Johnson is also, I would argue, probably a pretty solid backup in the NFL, given the way he played specifically with the Jets on a terrible team. That team is truly dreadful. So I think it's not a massive downgrade, but the way Huntley's played, I think you have a level of uncertainty with Josh Johnson that you didn't have with Huntley or obviously Lamar Jackson. So I'm downgrading them both, but like Mark Andrews, went from, tight end 2 to 2? Like, he didn't get downgraded enough to even move down a spot. I don't think. Maybe you could have flipped him with Gronk if you wanted to. Marquise Brown and Bateman move a little farther down. Bateman, to me, a little suspect because he was already getting kind of empty calorie targets. He's not their primary red zone weapon. He's not moving the chains deep down the field. So to me, Bateman moves into fringy flex territory, but he was frankly already there.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with Andrews. All I did was knock him behind Gronk. And I just don't know what you can do because the guy's got to throw to somebody. Josh Johnson, he's like the definition of a vet too. He'll know at least to stay alive, take these layup targets to Mark Andrews. So I agree, Andrews it affects the least. Denny, we got some names here. Russell Gage, who hopefully the Falcons have to throw enough today now against the Tim Boyle starting Lions to get Gage his PPR numbers, or Devontae Parker, or the desperation Chargers fill in Josh Palmer with Mike Williams and Jalen Guyton both on the COVID-19 list.
This is tough, because Josh Palmer, we saw him step into a starting role, 2 weeks ago? I can't remember, 3 weeks ago, and did quite well, led the team in targets. So it's hard to say bench him, but yeah, I think you have to just go with Parker and Gage. I think Gage is kind of an overlooked play this week overall, like redraft and what's it called? Daily fantasy football is another one where he's overlooked. So I would go with Parker and Gage, but man, Palmer's close.
So you even with Cordell Patterson going to get 32 carries today, we can still start Russell Gage.
No, man, Patterson getting like 9 carries, not playing.
Yeah, and when I made that joke in my head, I actually said Mike Davis, but then I accidentally enunciated Cordell Patterson. No, it's going to be like 32 Mike Davis carries.
See, Pat, it's really unfortunate. Like the one thing we could say about him early in the season is that he almost always had access to a ceiling. Can't say that anymore.
Yeah,
I feel like just playing the Lions is the access to the ceiling. Ironically, I totally agree. Like you were like, oh man, 8 targets, sometimes deep down the field, and some like carries that are coming on like 3rd and long or some jet sweep stuff. That was the ceiling. Now the ceiling is that just he's a running back who plays the Lions.
Yeah, he's just a running back now. That is what's happened with Cordell Patterson, and we're the Daigle. You're on the mute.
Back to a 62% snaps last week as well. Even if he's not going to see targets as a running back, like Kyle said, he is a running back against the Lions, and that's why we're high on him.
Daigle, Tom Guilfoyle wants to know Noah Fant with Drew Lock at quarterback, or the aforementioned Cole Kmet with Nick Foles at quarterback. Which of these high-end tight end 2, if that's like a thing that exists, should Tom be playing?
Reception floor. That is something Fant does not have. So I'm just going to take it with Kmet and get out of there.
That makes sense to me. Let's see here. Oh boy, Denny.
Yes.
We got this may be the sickest question we've had all year, but
it's a tough question.
It's that kind of week though. Davis Mills without Brandon Cooks, or Josh Johnson with this talented Ravens supporting cast.
Yeah, I mean it is close. I do think that Mills and the Texans will be just obviously forced into pass heavy script. The Chargers, although they were like the ultimate run funnel defense for much of the first half of the season, not so anymore. Daigle touched on that a few weeks ago on this show, and they're more of a pass funnel, not an extreme one, but I think that I think it's Mills here just based on that likely game script. I can't say Josh Johnson over Mills.
Man, that one is really tough. I don't remember who I have ranked higher. I think it was still Davis Mills, but that is a really, really tough one. Archaic Hero, Kyle, on the YouTubes. He needs to sit one of Joe Mixon, Cordero Patterson, Ezekiel Elliott, or Roe Joe.
You know what? I'm going to do it. Sit Zeke. Zeke's bad at football and don't play him anymore. I like he probably gets a larger percentage of a better offense than Cordero Patterson than this week Joe Mixon. I just don't care. He's not very good. He still splits work with other running backs. All 3 running backs are maybe Ronald Jones isn't like better, arguably, because he runs a little bit well, but he can't pass block. He can't catch. His team has a reasonably high implied team total as well, which is the same reason we're playing Zeke. Zeke has, I would argue, much better competition from his backups. The really only competition Ronald Jones has is Keyshawn Vaughn, who will probably serve as their Giovanni Bernard, but that's fine. Sit Zeke because he's probably just dust.
Wow. To the point, I have Zeke ranked the lowest, though, so I can't say I disagree with your analysis. We're going to try to get Daigle the Josh Johnson line established. Josh Johnson or Matt Ryan in a game where the Falcons are probably hoping to just run the ball 72 times.
I'll still take Ryan in a soft spot against the Lions. It's not like a ceiling option, but I do think his floor, even with Josh Johnson having some rushing upside, is better than Johnson. That the Ravens are still strapped without talent. 48 hours with the playbook for Josh Johnson. I just wonder if he can actually turn around and do something with his team. So yeah, I'll just take Ryan.
It's a good point that this is like a rare situation where like the backup quarterback doesn't know the system, and like a true emergency situation. Like a lot of times we get these number 3, like, well, he's been in the system for 42 years. So he at least knows the offense, folks. Josh Johnson does not know the Ravens offense. Denny, we got a Denny special here from James Dorsett on YouTube. Gerald Everett, James O'Shaughnessy, or Evan Ingram?
So is can I ask a question if folks have seen the inactives for Jacksonville?
You're wondering about Dan Arnold, aren't you?
Is Dan Arnold active?
The only thing you ever wonder about is Dan Arnold. One player you've talked about.
Tell you in 1 second.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, because that would really affect this. It's not Ingram. Get Ingram out of here. No, I refuse.
No, by the way, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
No, he's the 3-week window designated to return, but he's not actually active.
All right. It's O'Shaughnessy. Get him in.
O'Shaughnessy. Okay. Yep. There we go.
It's like that. Lost his devotion to Dan Arnold that quickly.
I know. Yeah, Denny, seriously, have some solidarity, man. What happened to solidarity?
I'm not like his brother or
I
something.
thought that was an important concept to you. Solidarity.
He's not my son.
Wow. This is a weird one, Daigle, from Sam Kessel on YouTube. Amon-Ra or Tony Pollard. Amon-Ra, it's just sad, isn't it? It's also sad that like losing Jared Goff could affect the situation so much, but it does.
Yeah.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown or the banged up Tony Pollard in a game where the Cowboys might have an entire second half of like run heavy, favorable game script.
It's still Amon-Ra St. Brown for me. The Eagles managed to push Washington around, but the Eagles push good defensive lines around. So that wasn't shocking at all. Whereas the Washington's still a top 5 run defense. If you look at Football Outsiders or a few metrics at Pro Football Focus, including yards per carry allowed. So no, like I just don't want Tony Pollard, who we know is going to get 8 to 12 touches. He has to score a touchdown no matter fantasy. That's it.
We got a lot of just interesting ones today. Denny, we have the slots guy on YouTube. Melgo, J-Jax, or Dame Hair. Sorry, I just had to stick with the bit.
Yeah, I mean, if I weren't looking at the screen, I would have no idea who you're talking about.
But I guess he needs to play one. We have a rare play one, not sit one. Today the theme had been sit one.
Play one. The Denver running backs are tough today because of Drew Lock starting, and it's not good. It's not good for anybody, including the running backs. Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams have benefited all season from Teddy Bridgewater kind of keeping things stable.
At least someone has benefited from Teddy Bridgewater.
Exactly. I mean, nobody else. Nobody else in that offense. And I'll stop rambling and say Damian Harris. You're playing Damian Harris.
I think I agree. I will say with the Broncos, the Raiders are very soft against the run. We know this is not a day where like they're going to try to see what Drew Lock can do. We're like Drew Lock's the one play they're barking into Drew Lock's headset is don't throw an interception. And like that's the one play Drew Lock is allowed to run today. And we're going to get 40 to 45 carries for the Denver Broncos, I believe. But I think you've got the right diagnosis there with Damian Harris. Daigle, we had a weird one from Caden on YouTube. Michael Carter, DJ Moore, or Tony Pollard. Michael Carter, we have so much Jets uncertainty. DJ Moore, we have hamstring and quarterback uncertainty. Tony Pollard, we have health uncertainty. Who should Caden play?
I think I still go DJ Moore. Michael Carter, it's going to be the same thing we saw last week. It's just, 8 touches to Tevin Coleman, 7. Ty Johnson also involved. It's a 3-headed committee and a terrible offense. And I don't even know if the matchup matters for the Jets because no matchup matters for the Jets. It's still the Jets offense with Zach Wilson. So Michael Carter still not high on it all. I'd rather just take the negative game script with the Panthers and DJ Moore.
Yeah, I know. This late in the season, every year, even non-COVID years, we see some really depleted teams, but I don't know if I've ever seen a team quite as depleted as the Jets are today.
Yeah.
Both sides of the ball and the coach. Like we are talking, I think the line, what would the line be for Alabama here, Daigle? I mean, Jets get 27.5 maybe still. Would it be under 4 touchdowns if the New York Jets were playing the Alabama Crimson Tide today? Would this be the one game where we say, maybe to set the line under 30 at least?
Most likely, yeah. And the Jaguars aren't good either. It's just the fact that the Jets are so bad that the Jaguars, you would think, this is famous last words, you would think they can't screw it up. Literally all they need to do is hand it off 30 times. Just take the ball out of Trevor Lawrence's hands even. Just give it to James Robinson. That's it. You can't screw it up.
Did we not literally just do this with them versus the Texans? This was the exact same thing.
I bet the Texans money line. That +5 was juicy.
Yes.
What would be the standard NFL versus college team line, by the way? 41.5, or is that too low?
They'd be like
62.5.
Like, yeah, it would be like the same as the Alabama versus Southern Carolina State.
That's usually 41.5.
I think those games don't get out to like 50 or more.
Trevor Lawrence in his current state would still destroy Alabama, or I don't know who the best college football team is.
That's
I have no
true.
idea.
Yeah, it's probably Alabama, Georgia.
Okay, 62.5. Today, what would the line be real quick between the Jets and the University of Alabama today?
I feel like you were on point with like mid to high 30s.
Yeah, that's probably 30. Yeah, let's say 34.5, maybe 37.5, 6 scores. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't follow college football a ton, but doesn't Alabama have Bryce Young, the like way
Bryce
way
Harris?
ahead?
Yeah, Bryce Young.
the,
Excuse
the
me, right?
presumptive 2023 because he's not eligible. 101, I would assume right now he's playing well. They might have the quarterback advantage against. They have the quarterback advantage against like Ian Book, Tim Boyle, but they also might have it against like Zach Wilson.
They do.
He also won the Heisman. But I'm just going to spend the whole second half of the show trying to establish the line for this game. We're going to get to Daigle's manifesto, DFS manifesto, in just 1 second. But Kyle, Sid, OBJ, or DJ Moore. I think we're trying to get someone to say DJ Moore, who, frankly, I need someone to say DJ Moore. I'm starting him over Devontae Smith and not feeling super great about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to keep looking for this question. I will continue to roll with Odell Beckham, who's played as expected as soon as he got involved, as soon as he got like a week out into the offense. A pretty meaningful role for a super electric offense that plays in one of the games that features a team with a reasonably high total. The totals are pretty low on this slate, but they play in a game with a 48.5 total, which is one of the highest on the slate, and they actually have a high total as well. The Rams do. Whereas like Sam Darnold coming back, does that even matter? Sam Darnold, outside of his first 3 games, was just as bad throwing as like Cam Newton or PJ Walker. He just did it slightly more often, like relative to Cam, because he doesn't run the football. But I think the offense is still just terrible. I mean, they are running a quarterback by committee. That is the telltale sign of a bad college football offense. We're talking about college football. That is the telltale sign of a college football offense that's about to get dusted by Nebraska. So, no, I'm not playing any Panthers this week if I can. There are, like, if you throw me DJ Moore versus Marvin Jones, sure, I'll take DJ Moore. But in this spot, OBJ.
Man, no Marvin Jones love whatsoever on the show. So, Daigle, is there anything other than the power of prayer to believe in DFS today? What should people do in daily fantasy football?
Don't play cash games. Start there, because it's literally a 1v1 if that. Honestly, like, if you don't play cash games much anyhow, it's a week that you could probably screw it up because every play is just so obvious. So unless you like giving Matt Kalish your rake, just don't play cash games at all. Other than that, for tournaments, I would actually say be wary, because it is very easily in both directions. One, to stack a lineup and then look up and say, oh, well, like, everyone's going to play this, thus this lineup is going to be 280% cumulative rostership. I'm not even kidding. It's easy to do that this slate because we know exactly what the field's going to play. Ronald Jones, James Robinson, Justin Jackson, Antonio Brown, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Josh Palmer, and Justin Herbert or Jalen Hurts. That's what everyone's going to do. So on the other side of that, when you start making these pivots saying, okay, well, if everyone's going to play like Ronald Jones or Antonio Brown, maybe I can play Gronk instead. Also, you could do that so much that you could get yourself like off the chalk completely. And in this slate, it's impossible to like win tournaments by fading everything, because then you're just fading the entire slate. This is a slate where we can win because we want chalk to fade. This is the slates we either win everything or lose everything, because we are not scared to fade players that we think can fail, like Justin Jackson, who's in a committee. Having said that, just be careful not to pivot off too much of it, because players like Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson are still good chalk. Like, they're amazing plays. Everyone just looks at the last 2 games where Jefferson has had a 41 and 48% target share without Adam Thielen. But I mean, look beyond that, and Jefferson was averaging 28 to 35% target share in 4 games prior. So like, Thielen doesn't even matter for Jefferson being a good play. He's just a good play. So I'm hoping people actually go away from him a little bit with Thielen active. So just think about how to get creative around the chalk, in my opinion. I think it's a day where you can come in with 2 or 3, 1 to 2% players, even correlating with your quarterback. Let's say get crazy if you want to pay down with like Mac Jones and Hunter Henry, 2 1% players, and then you can put Antonio Brown and Cooper Kupp and Justin Jefferson and Ronald Jones and James Robinson and all those guys all around them. And so, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out a way to get creative with 2 players and then play the good plays beyond that, since the good plays are mispriced. That's the issue, that the sites got them wrong. We didn't get them wrong. And so just be careful everything you do today.
Be careful everything you do today. And Daigle, when you were talking, I was thinking, is there any way like the tournament winning quarterbacks are not going to be just like true sicko plays today? Like, we're going to get like the QB 27 winning people $1 million.
That or Jalen Hurts' floor, even if he doesn't have a good game, even if he has 60 rushing yards and 170 passing and 1 touchdown, the floor for rushing may be good today. Because I just worry that every game's going to suck. And would that be surprising given that over the last month, every game has sucked? Every player could just be bad and we would not be shocked at all. No touchdowns whatsoever. So it may be just a floor week, honestly. That's why the Matt Ryans and Russell Gages are also good, because maybe you just take your floor and get out of there and survive.
Yeah, it's been a tough watch over the past month, and not just because of the COVID, more because of the return of the run game. The run game never stays down for long. You always think you've got the run game beat, and then it always comes crawling back
Always.
and makes you cry. Denny, we're going back to sit one for Michael on YouTube. Sit one between Cordero, Alexander Madison, or Stephon Diggs. Tough situation here.
Yeah, I can't sit Patterson or Madison, so I guess it has to be Diggs. It's a horrible matchup, obviously. Oh man, am I off here, guys? I mean, I feel like
you just have to bench. It's tough to bench Diggs, but I think you just bank the running back touches here and you bench the wide receiver against the New England Patriots. Right. In my opinion, is the play. Were you agreeing, Kyle, or saying?
No, that was my pick. Bench Diggs. The Bills have such a low implied team total. I still think they're a really sneaky DFS play, but overall as a team, this is the worst they'll probably look. I mean, not all year. This is the worst they will be projected to look all year. Keeping in mind that they, again, lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is just incredible. But this will be their lowest projection as a team for the entire year. Alexander Madison has been just a complete stud, averaging 24 carries, 110 rushing yards alone, while playing a bigger receiving role than Dalvin Cook. He is if you told me he was the RB1 this week, I'd be not surprised in the least.
Yeah, Madison had a few rough spot starts over the past 2 or 3 years in place of Dalvin Cook. Now
it was one.
I know, but now I was going to say now he's on several good ones in a row. So I'm trying to say that narrative is dead. Hopefully, thankfully,
so dead.
Yeah, it's dead. And we're going to stick with you here, Kyle. AB, who we haven't talked about much yet today, or CD Lamb. I have them both in the top 10. Just for full disclosure, who in the world should Duran play?
Yeah, to me, it's Antonio Brown. Brown was so incredibly efficient, an elite yards per route run and yards per target player while also getting touchdowns. And now that was when he was playing 2/3 of the snaps. They were rotating him plus a second running back or a second tight end on a lot of snaps. So he wasn't actually playing a full-time role. Now he joins a team that has no top 2 receivers, elevating him to a larger role, both in the target share and the overall snaps department. And Vegas doesn't think this is going to destroy their team. They actually have a 27.5 implied team total. Sure, that's a little low for the Bucs, but it's still reasonable. It's actually very high for the entire week. So as long as Vegas isn't worried about the offense, I'm not worried about the offense. But you still have to say targets are going somewhere. So to me, it's Antonio Brown. Although, like you said, I think I probably have both of these guys. I know I have AB top 10. I'd be shocked. I still love CD, so I'd be shocked if I don't have him top 10 as well.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think you had the proper diagnosis there. Daigle, everyone wants to sit one today. No one wants to start one. The elevator party.
Everyone's just can we sit players? Keep sitting players.
Well, apparently everyone just has amazing lineups, which I wasn't expecting for week 16. But sit one between Justin Jackson, Damian Harris, or Mr. Jalen Waddle, who we have not talked about yet today.
Oh yeah, we're not sitting Jalen Waddle. He's back from the COVID list. He's going to be just fine. He is the key to their offense since he is essentially their running game. So you start Jalen Waddle with full confidence. It comes down to Justin Jackson or Damian Harris. I think I'd take Justin Jackson because the matchup is better. Damian Harris will still be, even without Ramondre Stevenson, still be more touchdown or bust. He won't see an increased role in the passing game. We've done this time and time again this year. Even we have the evidence where it's still Brandon Bolden, JJ Taylor also active.
I was about to make a JJ Taylor joke because
he is active today.
Today the JJ Taylor takeover.
Oh, but no, I'm just going to take Justin Jackson because the matchup's so good.
Makes sense to me. Denny, here's 2 of the scam players. Well, Darnell Mooney's not a PPR scam player. He's an actually good player. No, he's an actually good player. So I didn't mean to loop him in with the scam artists in PPR. But who should he play? Russell Gage or Darnell Mooney? Darnell Mooney has tended to compile when it's been the statue quarterbacks for the Bears. Like Andy Dalton, all he did was throw to Darnell Mooney. Can we expect the same from Nick Foles, or are we going Russell Gage? I'm just making this so confusing.
Yeah, please talk for another minute or two about these options so that I have no idea what to say by the end. I wrote up Darnell Mooney. I mentioned him in the Target Dakota column as a guy who has kind of a sneaky good matchup. Now, this was with the assumption at the time of that writing that Justin Fields would start. And then I thought, oh, well, he's still good with the Andy Dalton, start. Nope. And so it's Nick Foles. So I'll go Gage here. I'm not going to, go in on Nick Foles as a guy who can help Darnell Mooney succeed, even in a kind of a sneaky good spot.
Yeah, there's still this perception. I feel like the Nick Foles, like, I know it's Nick Foles, but he comes in a spot start. He can give you a competent game. He might get exposed over 3 or 4 games, but he can give you one competent start. He doesn't really do that anymore. He's just very, very, very bad. And Island Boy Gamers, Kyle, he needs a miracle at running back in PPR, and he's wondering if he should start Devontae Booker, Amir Abdullah, or Brandon Bolden as he seeks a miracle on earth.
Oh my God. What is this nonsense? To me, it's not Devontae Booker because both him and Saquon look very not good on an offense that is I don't know if they're getting worse or not between Jake Fromm and Mike Glennon, but they're terrible. This is an offense that is going to be among the worst. And if you need a miracle, it probably means you need touchdowns. So you're not getting it from him. I go Brandon Bolden here. I think he plays for the best offense, even if his role is arguably a little less than the others, but really isn't that much less without Ramondre. He should play the entirety of the receiving down role, maybe picks up a few carries. I'd go Bolden. I understand why you need a miracle, though. This feels like a miraculous situation.
All I need is a miracle, as Mike and the Mechanics once said in the glorious decade of the 1980s. And that Brandon Bolden is the correct answer, by the way. Daigle, we haven't talked much about Terry McLaurin, I should say, who talk about an up in the air situation. Is everything with the Washington football team feels touch and go this week? Should Scott start Terry McLaurin or Devontae Parker?
We talked about this in the preview show where Terry McLaurin, it literally comes down to just a touchdown. He hasn't been a top 20 receiver without a touchdown this year. And the games he scored a touchdown, 4 of them this year, he's been top 20. So literally just comes down to that. We can't predict that. What his role is going to be. Doesn't matter. Has to score a touchdown. And so I genuinely think Parker has the higher floor, but I don't think I'd sit McLaurin for Parker. I'd still play McLaurin. And I don't think that's wise, but I would still personally play McLaurin because I'm not courageous enough to bench McLaurin for Parker. So that's how I'm going to address it.
I think that's right, by the way, too. I mean, courage is overrated. I mean, just get him in there. I mean, cowardice is the way to go. Get Terry McLaurin in the lineup and don't seek glory. To seek cheap fantasy points. Denny, we have a question specifically for you. Your fans know to ask you about lousy tight ends play. I can't talk today. Tight ends play? Question mark. Are we doing the Irishman, James O'Shaughnessy, Foster Moreau, or CJ Uzomah?
I don't call them bad plays. I call them creative tight end plays.
All I need is a miracle.
And so I in another universe where Lamar Jackson is playing today, and we could expect maybe a little bit of back and forth. Maybe the Bengals be pushed a little bit toward the pass heavy approach. I would say Uzomah, but we are not living in that universe. So we're going with James O'Shaughnessy again with Dan Arnold not active today.
So call him the Irishman. Call him by his real name. Call James the Irishman. We got a really interesting one here from Muhammad, Kyle. Craig Reynolds or Darrell Henderson? Haven't heard many Craig Reynolds questions today. DeAndre Swift was not amongst the Lions' active players. He is out again. We don't know how things are going to unfold for Craig Reynolds with Jamal Williams finally back in the lineup. But Craig Reynolds or the Rams' apparent number 2 back, Darrell Henderson.
Yeah, I don't play running backs when their quarterback is Tim Boyle. Just couldn't imagine. Like, what are your odds of scoring a touchdown by playing Craig Reynolds? Like 5%. It seems so incredibly unlikely. And he's actually looked like pretty solid. There's a few highlights of him breaking nice runs and showing no top end speed. That's fair for Craig Reynolds. Like, he looks like he at least has some juice. But Darrell Henderson, even at a modest involvement in an offense that is so much better.
Oh no, he's such a good play that Kyle has exploded, and we're sorry. Daigle, we're gonna go one more to you, then we're gonna go to Denny. By the way, what was the answer? Daigle, you answer one word for Muhammad, Craig Reynolds or Darrell Henderson. Then we're gonna go to Thrift Shop 25.
This is the one that Kyle just did, correct?
He did, but who did he say? Was he saying Craig?
I think he said, didn't he sit Craig? Because
he
said, what are the odds Craig scores a touchdown? Whereas I think, yes, that is one way to pose the question. What are the odds Craig scores a touchdown? But also, like, Sony Michel was the lead back last week. So I don't, like, isn't Reynolds, even with Jamal Williams active, going to out-touch Darrell Henderson in this game? And I think that's kind of...
I think so, and that's why we cut Kyle's mic.
They're both terrible options, Muhammad. I'm sorry.
He's back now, but I would go Craig Reynolds, by the way. I would just go Craig Reynolds.
And I don't pre-canceled?
Yeah, you were canceled.
I don't even expect anything from Reynolds, but I would go Reynolds.
I would go Reynolds. Sorry, Kyle, you are fired.
Yeah,
Daigle,
cool.
pick one for Thrift Shop 25 on Twitch. Laquan Treadwell, Tyler Johnson, Scotty Moe, Josh Palmer, or Braxton Berrios.
All the guys you just picked up off the waiver wire this morning, essentially. It'd be Josh Palmer. I'm just going to take the reception floor. And that's about it. Laquan Treadwell, he's going to get deep shots. He's in a terrible offense. You know what he's going to do. Tyler Johnson, I think is a good play, but also, like, is he actually going to receive targets with Gronk and Antonio Brown still available? Would not play Scotty Miller. Braxton Berrios, we saw that, yes, perhaps he sees a lot of targets, but is also Zach Wilson, so not really worried about it.
Braxton Berrios is going to be in every tournament winning lineup. You heard it here first.
Yeah, man, it's Berrios season.
It's Berrios season. Daigle's now canceled.
Whatever you say.
Uncanceled is Denny, who worked all week finding how we needed to adjust the ranks. I've never seen a week with more changes that necessitated rankings adjustments. Denny is here to tell us what to do.
Hey everyone, this is Denny Carter with NBC Sports Edge, bringing you the Week 16 edition of Adjust the Ranks. Today, we're going to start with Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson, who apparently was teaching ESPN's Adam Schefter how to do the gritty before the Vikings Monday night game against the Bears. It didn't go well, and Adam Schefter ended up looking more like he was going to steal Christmas as the Grinch creeping into a child's home on Christmas Eve, more than actually doing the gritty. I think we have to adjust down on Justin Jefferson and honestly all of the Vikings wide receivers, because if Justin Jefferson's teaching ability is that poor that Adam Schefter ends up looking like the actual Grinch rather than doing the gritty, we have to assume that all the receivers under Justin Jefferson over the coming years are not going to learn the proper lessons, the proper techniques, the proper route running strategies that Justin Jefferson will pass on to them. We're adjusting down on Justin Jefferson. We'll continue today with Washington football team center John Toth. He's actually the fifth string center for the football team. He played this past week against the Eagles. He's also a plus size male model on the side of his professional football career. And we are adjusting up on John Toth, because if he's anything like his NBA counterparts who are into fashion, who have become fashion icons, guys like Russell Westbrook, guys like Kyle Kuzma, James Harden, and many others, if he gets to that level, we're talking about not only the starting center for the Washington football team, but perhaps the franchise player for a storied franchise. We're adjusting up on John Toth. Once again, this is Denny Carter with NBC Sports Edge, reminding you to adjust the ranks.
Shocking stuff.
Did you guys see Kyle Kuzma's sweater?
I did. Of course, yeah. That was messed up, I think.
Well, wait. Is this something the Zoomers wear, Kyle?
I mean, he's of my age bracket. I'm not sure. The thing is, high fashion like that doesn't make it into my economic weight class per se. So I would assume Zoomers who are of that, that like entrepreneurial, like every day is a rise and grind day, Silicon Valley probably do. But yeah. I'm slumming it here, writing like defensive lineman blurb. So I don't know.
Kyle needs to win a few more hockey GPPs before he can afford the Kyle Kuzma sweater.
A lot more. I'm sure that sweater is like literally $20,000 or something.
By the way, the Russell Westbrook contract's looking very good, by the way, for those of you who follow the NBA.
It always does, right, with that guy. Anyway, let's get off NBA.
Denny, kickers of the week, do they exist this week, or are we just banning kickers? Because there's like a number of kickers even on the COVID list. It's just Lord of the Flies out here. Who are the kickers of the week?
Yeah, so Harrison Butker is unvaccinated and is out today. That leaves Elliott Fry, who is a guy who's kicking for the Chiefs today. The process says he's a pretty good play. The issue is that I had to dig into his college stats to find how good or maybe bad he is at kicking the football through the uprights. So he's still kind of a fringe play. Jake Elliott is in a good spot. He's available in 85% of leagues. Dustin Hopkins. And Dustin Hopkins is a great play. Also, Justin Tucker, downgraded, not a plug and play guy today because of Josh Johnson starting. I can't trust that game script with Justin Tucker. So find another option if any of those guys I just mentioned are on your waiver wire.
It's bleak out here. Not even Justin Tucker can save us, apparently. Daigle, they're wondering, is Devontae Freeman startable this week? The usage got weird last week. Latavius Murray was more involved. The Ravens, in theory, will need to lean more in the running game today, though. Is Devontae Freeman startable?
Startable is a relative term compared
point.
to your roster. So is he startable? Anyone's startable in week 16. Is he advisable? No. Last week, just for Latavius Murray to pop back up with 8 touches, the only reason you would start Devontae Freeman is because prior to last week, he was a workhorse in 2 games where Latavius Murray had total just 6 touches combined across those 2 games. But to be more involved last week, neither player has a ceiling because at this stage of their career, they just can't get there unless they're the only player. So not looking to start Devontae Freeman, more or less looking to stay away from the Ravens offense. Minus Mark Andrews. Like, you have to play Mark Andrews.
The people want to know, they heard us talking about, they want to know, what can we expect from Braxton Berrios this week for the New York Jets?
He's a really good returner. I believe he is. Did he get a Pro Bowl nod? I know the last Jets game I watched, that was a big talking point because there's not much else to talk about. That he was eyeing, I believe, his first career Pro Bowl nod. He leads the NFL in average kick return or something. He'll probably see a lot of targets. He was in the first game where Jamison Crowder was really well projected. He actually out-targeted Crowder, and he still was involved later, and then got the goal line jet sweep style carry, if I remember correctly. So he'll be used as a gadget player. He'll be used as the primary slot player. What is that worth on a terrible Jets offense? More than wide receiver 3 production doesn't seem likely.
I got him in the top 40-ish.
Yeah,
I went kind
fair.
of aggressive on Braxton Berrios because you want to talk about a PPR scam. I mean, this guy basically just backed a backhoe into an ATM and money's just flying in the air. He's a PPR scam. Daigle, I feel like we never really settled the Lions backfield matter. Let's just eliminate Amon-Ra St. Brown. 3 Lions, by the way, Eric. That's a tough scene for week 16. Are we ranking Jamal Williams or Craig Reynolds higher this week for the Detroit Lions?
You know what's going to happen. Jamal Williams, the last time he was available without DeAndre Swift, his only start before going on the COVID list, had 17 carries, only played 42% of the snaps, and Godwin Abuke ran more routes, 26-9. I would expect that role, the pass catching role, to now become Reynolds and Williams to lead an early down carry. So does Williams score a touchdown? If so, he's going to outscore Craig Reynolds. If you think they fall behind the Falcons significantly with Tim Boyle, Craig Reynolds is probably the play because he'll get there with a higher reception floor and get the target. So it just depends what game script you want to paint yourself. Having said that, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I still think is the play here. Just because at least he's going to be out there every single snap and you don't got to worry about game script. They're going to go to him no matter what.
That makes sense to me. Denny has appeared to have gone comatose. So I'm going to ask him a quarterback question. Josh Allen or Joe Burrow? Josh Allen missing some receivers against the Patriots defense that has had his number.
Every time I'm quiet, people think that I'm either frozen or I've gone into a.
You are very still. I'm like a herky-jerky person. No one's ever going to accuse me of going comatose. Denny, you just look like you fall asleep with your eyes open sometimes. So which quarterback here?
I'll make sure to just sway back and forth when it's not my turn to talk. Oh God, this is hard because the Bengals are just going to establish all day.
They are.
That makes it easy then.
Yeah, I go Allen.
I think you still go Allen's upside, even with the matchup concern, even with the wide receiver concerns. He has gotten progressively better against the Patriots. He went nuclear against them at the end of last season, but the Patriots season was kind of over then. He was cutting through that wind in week 13. It is tough to trust him. I think you have to go with Josh Allen's upside still over Joe Burrow. We are nearing the end of the show here. I'm trying to find a really good one. They're all really good. I
was going to say, the fact that you're struggling really implies something about our comments.
Now I think this might be Mike Murphy, Kyle, El Murpho on YouTube. He wants to know Dallas Goedert, Rashad Penny, or Amari Cooper in the flex.
Oh, it's not Rashad Penny for me. I would say it's either Dallas Goedert, basically number 1 receiver for the Eagles, or Amari Cooper, number 1 receiver for the high Vegas total, concerning when you think about it, total of the Cowboys. I will still go Amari Cooper.
I think you go Dallas Goedert, but I definitely understand.
I'm fine with that answer.
Amari Cooper the other day, squeaky wheel. He came out demanded.
Okay,
he,
good.
he demanded all the good touches, red zone and third down.
Yes.
So he's basically like, you need to get me the ball when the game actually matters.
You can hear the squeaking from here.
You can. And we'll end the show here, Daigle, with a quarterback question. Justin Herbert or Matthew Stafford? I didn't know what to do with the top 5 or 6 at quarterback this week. Justin Herbert without his receivers against the Texans and a possible run-heavy game script, or Matthew Stafford, who seems to get 2 or 3 touchdowns every week?
Still Justin Herbert for me, an amazing spot. Even if you take out Eckler, like the logic would say, okay, well, they'll just pass more. Mike Williams' role wasn't going to change anyhow. So just pass more with Josh Palmer and Keenan Allen as opposed to running the ball more without Austin Eckler. So, yeah, it's still Justin Herbert. I think he has a significantly higher ceiling than Stafford, too.
That answer makes a lot of sense. And I hope all of our answers made a lot of sense today on a good football show. Fantasy Kickoff served by Applebee's. One of the toughest weeks in fantasy history. Despite all the kidding, we do hope you actually have enough startable players, that you survive, that you reach the fantasy finals, that you had a good holiday weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us this week for all of our great content at NBC Sports Edge. And join us next Sunday at noon Eastern on a good football show, Fantasy Kickoff, wherever NBC Sports streams.